Hello everyone, welcome to Golden Talkies, back in the new year, for proper. This is a podcast where we talk about films that came out 50 years ago this week. I am one of your hosts, Jamie, my other host is Duncan. You join us as we move from the torrid past of 1970 into the year of 1971. Congratulations. This week's film was on a limited release during this time, and because not a lot of films came in January, we're doing it this week, and it is Vanishing Point. Anything to add, my dear compatriot?
No, I was just gonna let you go there. You were.
I was in the zone. I like it.
Rolling and going. That was very nice.
Regular listeners will notice that I have bought a microphone at last, which is why I probably don't sound quite as much like shit as usual, and I like it. I feel very professional.
Yeah, I still need to find a way to set mine up better because I'm still holding it, which is fine for a little bit.
Nice.
But my arm does start to get sore. I should buy a little tripod thing for it.
Yeah, mine came with a tripod, so.
That's good. Well, mine is an on-camera microphone, to be fair.
Pop filter. So neat stuff.
Nice.
Right, you got any historical context for us today,
do.
big boy? Good. Why don't you go through that?
So, this film, as Jamie mentioned, came out in limited release on the 15th of January. So that's this week, obviously, as Jamie said. That's what we do in this old podcast. So, the website I use, Jamie, takemeback.to, not sponsored, unfortunately, still. But they had, for the first time this week, you know how they normally have what films are popular and what books are popular?
Yeah.
Guess what new media they had this week? Seems to be the first week I could see it.
I mean, music would seem to be the missing piece, but I can't imagine they didn't have that before.
No, they had music. Remember, we always do the charts.
Did they have a film? Did you mention they had a film column?
Yep.
TV must be the one.
It's video games, Jamie.
Wait, in the 71?
Apparently.
I guess. I guess Atari was around. What was hot? Was it Breakout or
Star Trek?
Okay.
Galaxy game. Computer
Galaxy
Space
game.
And a little known game called Oregon Trail.
Oh, that's not even Atari. That's fucking Apple Mac, isn't it? The Oregon
I believe
Trail?
so. Yeah, I believe so.
I'd like to play it sometime.
Well, it's available. I think it's one of these games that's available pretty much everywhere nowadays. It's kind of a cult classic people still play. Anyway, I found that interesting that we are now. We now have video games as a medium. I mean, obviously it's going to be many years until.
I think the video game crash is in 1973.
Right.
And then there's a big gap until the NES comes out.
Yeah.
In 85.
But anyway, that was a cool little thing. It's Martin Luther King's birthday, 15th of January.
Good for him.
Not Martin Luther King Day, because that's on the third Monday of every January, which I didn't know. Not on his birthday. But anyway. I
guess you always want your public holiday to be on a Monday, don't you?
It's true.
Bit shit if it's on a Saturday.
Can you guess which song was number one in the US?
No, is the honest answer.
Okay, it's.
Oh wait! Was it? No, because those were in 71. Something by the Jackson 5 again. Is my guess.
But if you remember, we had a little running gag last year about songs that were made by the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. This is one of
another
them.
one. Okay, going through. Is it Spirit in the Sky?
No, but that's the right themes.
Okay.
It has religious themes, which fits in nicely with this film, as we'll come to.
Okay, so Hallelujah isn't in fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. What's the one that goes like Ula Chaka? Ula. What's that one?
No, it's not that one.
No?
It's in. I think this one's in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh no, I'm less familiar with that soundtrack.
I think.
I don't know. I only remember Brandy and Mr. Blue Sky from that.
Okay, it's not. It's My Sweet Lord.
Oh, by George Harrison, of course.
Yeah, the one that goes Hare Krishna.
Yeah. He got sued about that one.
I really want to hold you. That one.
Yeah, I like that song.
It's a really good song. Yeah, I had a little listen to it. And can you guess what song was number 3 in the UK?
Okay. The answer again is no, but I'm guessing it's by a British artist to make up.
It is. It's by... Should I tell you who it's by? Because you're not gonna, it's by T-Rex.
I don't know who that is. No.
You don't know T-Rex at all? You must. You definitely will know some of their songs. It's Ride a White Swan.
Ah.
Do you know that song? No.
I'll listen to it.
It's a very good song. I'd recommend it.
Fair.
If you're listening to this podcast, pause it and go and listen to... No, don't. Listen after the podcast. Finish the podcast, then listen to Ride a White Swan.
Yeah. Right.
And finally, Jamie.
Yeah.
I've got Time magazine article.
Yeah.
So I seem to now have access to Time magazine articles as well, which was a bit confusing.
Okay, that's good, I suppose.
Maybe
anyway, it's more recent.
This article was about how shit 1970 was and how 1971 might be better, which I thought was very relevant to...
What a running theme. That will be in literally that's like every first year issue. When has anyone ever said, wasn't last year great? No one is capable of such a thought.
It's true. The main complaint seemed to be the economy, which in light of currently how shit last year was with fires and pandemics and protests and riots and all sorts. I guess there were also protests and riots and stuff in 1970. Yeah. But anyway, the comparison seems pretty...
It's an apt one. I think that's fair.
Apt, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, I just find it interesting. Pretty funny. So we can... That's my historical context.
Isn't Time just a flat circle, really?
What, Time magazine? No, it's more like... I mean, it is flat, but it's more kind of magazine shaped, funnily enough.
Waka. What larks we have.
I know.
What
it's great, isn't it?
Right. Fucking film. Okay, it's Vanishing Point. This film is... I don't think was massively successful. But it has something of a cult legacy. It's inspired.
It's described as an action/cult film on Google.
Yeah. So it helped. It's an inspiration to Quentin Tarantino for his least popular film Grindhouse, or at least that's the only time I directly referenced it. I'm sure, obviously, it was an inspiration for a lot of things, and was also an influence for Edgar Wright's Baby Driver, a film where 50% of the main cast are sexual assaulters.
It's
so that's fun.
Also apparently one of Spielberg's favourite films.
Oh yeah, it was also an inspiration for Jewel, at least somewhat, wasn't it?
Well, could it be? I mean, Jewel came out in the same year.
Oh, okay. I just heard that. But,
that maybe. I don't know. I mean, Jewel came out later in the year. When did Jewel come out?
How short is Jewel? It probably took more than a year.
Jewel's quite short, to be fair. Oh, it's based on a short story from 1971. Yeah, I guess Jewel could have been made after seeing this. I don't think it could be based on it in terms of inspired to make it as a result of it, but certainly I think it could be
an influence in the process.
Parts of it could be influenced by it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what film it really reminded me of?
Which film?
Convoy.
I haven't seen Convoy, but
it's very similar. It's got similar ending. I guess we don't want to say the ending there, but it's got similar ending and similar situation of being chased across the country and stuff.
Yeah.
Also quite similar to Easy Rider. And
I haven't seen Easy Rider yet. It just came on Netflix. I want to watch it.
Oh, you should watch
soon.
it.
Well, I feel like it's
Thelma and Louise as well. It's quite similar to. I wonder if there's any influence there. Although that's more of a buddy film. But yeah.
Cool. Alright.
But yeah.
So our main character for this film is Kowalski, played by Barry Newman, alright?
Who looks a bit like...
he looks very 70s. He's got a nice afro going on, and at least 3 or 4 buttons undone.
He looks a bit like Elliot Gould, I thought.
Yeah, I suppose. He's not got... He's sexier than Elliot Gould.
Wow.
Or at least his vibe.
He is. I don't know. He looked a lot like someone, and that's who I thought he looked a lot like, but maybe not. Maybe someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, who does he look like? Looks a bit like Han Solo, but with the hair of someone else. Someone more ambitious. Actually, you know who he really looks like? He looks like Disco Stew from The Simpsons.
Right. That's not who I was thinking of.
No, I was sure it wasn't. Anyway.
Anyway.
So this film, Kowalski delivers cars for people. They're like specialized, modified cars, and he drives them from the garage where they're made to whoever needs them. On one such delivery, he makes a bet with his local drug dealer that he can get across the country in 15 hours. And I think if in return his next dose of speed will be for free. I think that's it. It's a low stakes bet. I think
Yeah,
that's
something like that.
So it's quite plot light, particularly in the first half. Kowalski drives very fastly and irresponsibly and very entertainingly across the country with the police on his trail. Initially for speeding, although sort of once he starts crossing state lines, there become real issues because the police don't really know what to charge him with. We find out for a series of flashbacks that he used to be first a motorbike driver and then a sort of touring car driver, but he was involved in a big accident. And then he used to be a cop, but he stood up to a police officer who was sexually assaulting a witness on the threat of pinning her for a crime, #ACAB. And then he had a girlfriend who died in a surfing accident, and that's his tragic backstory bringing us to here.
So you say ACAB, but clearly he's a good cop.
Well, he's a hero cop, and he did what all hero cops should do, which is quit. Yeah, I don't think we'll get onto the themes of this film in a second, but I think it's not a coincidence that it has it has a negative view of the police. So he starts. So the first maybe half of the film, or at least half an hour or so, is just one really long, really good car chase. Kowalski inspires this blind radio DJ who hails him the last great hero of America, who's proving that man is free through speed, and he plays his radio shows on in the background for most of the film, usually playing some really nice funk music. I think the inspiration for Baby Driver is particularly clear in the first car chase, because whilst the music isn't synced up nearly as well as Baby Driver, because it doesn't really attempt to, it's definitely a big addition to the thing. But it's a car chase that is greatly elevated by the use of music, and I can see where Baby Driver would have started as an idea from that. Anyway, then that sort of the car chase begins to end as he runs out into Death Valley, and there he meets a man who captures snakes for a living, and a sort of Christian rock camp, and then he meets another guy who's a drug dealer and a woman who rides around naked on a motorbike. And we find the blind DJ has been giving him advice throughout this journey, but his office is attacked in the middle of a race riot. The entire country has now been stirred up in Kowalski's favour, but they force the DJ to give him false information and set a trap there. But Kowalski is able to tell that something's wrong, so he gets advance notice of the trap and is able to outsmart them by sticking a police siren on his car, so that they think to let him through.
Yeah.
And then begins one final chase where Kowalski rams very suddenly and slightly anticlimactically head first into two diggers and his car explodes.
Yeah.
And that's the film.
That's film.
So,
thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
As we all know, this podcast, we just like to summarise the plot and then move on. So yeah, shall we start from the basic building blocks? What did you think of the car chases? As I think that is the main thing of this film.
I thought they were very well shot.
Yeah, I think so too.
They were very nice.
They go through all the sort of car chase cliches. There's he's able to take a turn on the police cars and then it rolls over, and then he's able to do one jump on the police cars and then it falls down.
It was very like Dukes of Hazzard kind of style.
Yeah.
It
reminded me
nice.
of the Italian Job, but that's probably because I have a narrower frame of reference than you.
That's true. It's very classic.
Yeah. There's nothing too over the top. It's not like none of it's out with the boundaries of reality.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a helicopter chasing him at one point, but it's not like a gunship or anything. It's just like a a helicopter that's tracking him and stuff like that. It's all very, real. I don't know if it's realistic. I've never been involved in a car chase, but relative to some of the other stuff you see,
it's not Fast and the Furious.
It's not Fast and Furious. It's the Italian Job, the A-Team, Dukes of Hazzard, kind of.
Okay.
Maybe not the A-Team because that's got guns and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. So we're both in agreement that sort of half of the film works well. What did you think of the road trippy half? That's a bit more meditative.
I liked it. Did you not like it?
I thought that as these things go, it wasn't. I don't know. Like, there's always the risk that I'm too dumb, but I didn't find these.
Yeah,
as
probably.
Sort of philosophical diversions go, I didn't find these particularly entertaining or thought provoking.
No, that's true. It certainly wasn't like El Topo. Kinda.
No, it wasn't like that. Or Wild at Heart was the other one I was thinking of, which again is perhaps an unfair comparison. But I suppose I don't know
if it was going for that though. I feel like it was going for a much more discreet kind of.
Well, I suppose I not walked away because we're fucking in lockdown. I closed my laptop screen, unsure of what the point of the diversions was supposed to be, per se. We don't get much more information about Kowalski's character. I didn't find most of the characters we see that entertaining on their own. I didn't really feel many of them added to the thematic content of the film much. As I think about it.
No, I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I liked them. I thought they were nice little. I like these films where people are sort of just coming across various things and people and stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think as diversions, they could have been more interesting or entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, one's quite homophobic, which I forgot to mention because it also wasn't very memorable.
It is. I thought it was going to be more homophobic than it was, but it wasn't. Not really saying much because it was pretty homophobic still.
Yeah, it's two people he picks up two hitchhikers and then they say, "You're laughing at us because we're queers, aren't you?" And he's not laughing; he's just inner monologue laughing. And then they try and hold him up, and then he does start laughing for real, and then he kicks him out, and that's the scene. There's
another film. Oh,
there are.
This is the thing where I get these like little flashes of scenes from other films. There's another film where something similar happens, and it's like a road trip film, and they pick up a homosexual couple, and it's like,
you're thinking of 5 Easy Pieces, aren't you?
Maybe
the lesbian couple they pick up.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think
I thought that was a much better or more informative scene in that film because
it definitely was.
Related a lot more to Jack Nicholson's character's issues, and also they were funny, which helps.
Yeah, but it's got the same sort of vibes, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, it's not the same. Right. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Well done for.
I'm a master at reading you, mate. I got you. So long as you reference films that we have seen together for the podcast.
I know that it could have very easily not been one of those.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess to get into.
Did you have? Talking about the hitchhikers, did you have? How long was the version that you saw?
I got the original US theatrical version. I don't know how long it was.
Because the UK one apparently features an extra scene with Charlotte Rampling in it as a hitchhiker towards the end.
No, I got it on DVD.
Well, apparently apparently the DVD has both versions on it.
This one didn't. It had the US theatrical version, with audio commentary, and I think some sort of double screen thing.
Okay.
Fucking forget what it's called, but yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'll having shelled out the money for the DVD. I don't know. The Blu-ray might be better. I thought it was pretty bare bones, frankly.
Yeah. Well, apparently the DVD release has both versions on it, but maybe not the.
Maybe not
I don't know.
Maybe the US release does.
Yeah, maybe it said the Region 1. I think it said Region 1 version had both on it.
But
So
I
yeah,
don't have an
we don't
extra scene
know.
to share.
We don't know anything about the UK version.
But you know what? I think the film was fine without that extra scene.
Yeah,
It
same.
didn't feel like anything was lacking. Yeah. So, what else shall we talk about here? Casual use of drugs in the film, worth noting from a historical point. But not in quite the same way not in the same way I think you'd have it in a film today. And that it's not. Whilst he clearly is, I don't think Barry's really painted as an addict.
No.
Drugs are just kind of a thing he does, and they don't really even seem to affect him in any way. He just kind of does them.
Well, apparently this extra scene, he does marijuana, and then he pulls over because he's too stoned, and he has to wait for it to wear off.
Yeah, Barry just does speed, as you can imagine, because that does inform his character.
Yeah. So
as a man who likes to go fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, the last roadside diversion is one of the slightly weirder ones. I think the most exploitative one, with the woman on the motorbike, where she just walks up to Barry, asks if she can get him anything, including sex, and then he says no, like a good man who knows he's in a film. And then she says, "Okay, then," and gives him a big thumbs up and gets him a cigarette. Not marijuana, because Barry has clearly learned from his unseen experience.
Yeah.
And he would never take a downer drug.
No, exactly. Yeah, that scene was interesting. I guess I don't really know. It's kind of the time, isn't it? The sexual freedom and.
Yeah, I think it's partly that. I think
stuff.
Apparently, a lot of the sales appeal of these B flicks was that if you were a young man in the 70s, they were one of the only ways you could reliably see a boob.
Well, that seems fair. There's a few boobs in this one.
Yeah, but yeah, they wouldn't have that today. On the other hand, I don't think they really added very much. So who's to say?
No, there's really no reason for it to be naked.
No,
I feel like this film gets away with it a bit more than others maybe would, because it's kind of got that spiritual.
Well, I was thinking about that.
Element.
I read the blurb for the film before I watched it, and it mentioned he runs across a prospector and a blind DJ and a woman on a motorbike, and when those three are read together, it sounds like it'll be. I think the reason why I had Wild at Heart in my head is that it sounds like it'd be a really spiritual road movie thing. Yeah. But it isn't really at all, or at least not very much. So I thought Naked Woman on a motorbike would be a spiritual experience thing, and it's not. She just rides up to him and says hi, and they have a fairly normal conversation apart from the unacknowledged fact she's naked. And obviously he never actually meets the blind DJ, which I will call false advertising right now.
No, but he talks to him spiritually.
Yeah, I mean, he and the DJ, they don't communicate directly. The DJ just talks on his radio show and hopes that Kowalski will hear, and because they have
but the DJ definitely knows that Kowalski's listening.
Yeah,
he knows. He can read his mind, Jamie.
Yeah, he understands this stuff because he's a magical. But
that's a good point, Jamie. Wow, you've been reading up on your film theory, huh?
Thank you.
But you're too scared to say it.
But I'm woke, so I would say it. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the film didn't shy away from racial violence, which I thought was impressive.
Yeah.
And commendable. But I think it's fair to say that the DJ is a bit of a stereotype, even if it is. I don't want to say a positive stereotype. It's not a mean-spirited stereotype. But definitely.
No, his name is Super Soul, which is pretty
just like Super Hands.
On the nose, is that the right term?
Yeah,
no, it's
that sounds good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that what you just said?
No, I compared it to Peep Show character Super Hands.
Oh right. Okay. Is it called? Is on the nose the right term?
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, isn't it? That's what you'd say.
Sure.
You would. You specifically would. You love saying in it, Duncan. We all know it.
I do. I do.
Yeah, music choices for the film very commendable, as we mentioned before. But just to make absolutely clear, I think this is a very good soundtrack. Very of the era in a way that I like.
Yeah.
None specifically stand out to me now, but as a mishmash, it was good.
I think this film could have done with a title song that tells the story of the film.
I mean, every film can, but I think you are right that it would fit here.
Like Convoy. I know you've not seen Convoy,
no.
but they've got a whole song about how they're in a convoy.
Is that the one where it goes, "We're gonna do the convoy"?
Yeah, exactly. And there's like a nice shot of the convoy. So this one could have been like, bom 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 bom. Kowalski's heading to the Vanishing Point, and he doesn't know where he's going.
The vanishing point is the point where he stops. Where did he stop? Why does he stop? And then bam! Incredible. The audience cheers.
Man, Convoy is a good film. It's got this the scene of the convoy with the song Convoy playing makes the whole film worth it, even if you don't enjoy the film at all. That's my official recommendation.
I like that you've got a hot take about this. Right, I'm running out of surface level stuff to talk about with Vanishing Point, so thematic discussion. So I think I was thinking watching Convoy, and I say because it's not that subtle about it, but it's a very individualist movie. I think it's fair to say. Very American in its own way. I think what we're supposed to take from the flashbacks to Kowalski's life, and I think to some extent from at least some of the roadside stops, is that Kowalski has suffered from bureaucratic systems, or perhaps just hierarchies of power above him, and his recklessly dangerous drive is his way of rebelling against the forces that constrain him, which I think are primarily represented in the film by the police.
His girlfriend is dead as well.
Yes, that's true, but that doesn't fit into the theme, so shut up. Okay. I don't know, I guess it kind of does. Death itself is against him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose. But yeah, I think the film is Kowalski's sort of pointless, but ultimately spiritually inspiring rebellion against the man. Very much the nebulously defined man. But obviously, the end of the film is that he fails to do that, and it costs him his life, which I think is quite. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of arguments that is his ultimate freedom.
His ultimate freedom is in death, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that, sort of tying into the historical context behind the whole thing, that seemed very appropriate for a film from the early 70s where there had just been the sort of idealism of the 60s, but after Kent State it had been sort of crushed and was never really ever going to recover properly. So I don't know, that it seems to me a product of that mindset, but nonetheless, it's quite a right-wing film, to put it on a spectrum, I suppose. But I don't know, I thought it was interesting
because of the individual liberties.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the takeaway, isn't it?
It's on the political compass. It's what, bottom.
Yeah, it would be bottom right, wouldn't it?
Bottom right, would you say? I would say it's kind of. It's not. It's the kind of bottom, just a little bit right.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think it's topping it too much. Well, it's about individuals rather than collectives, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't mean to map complex beliefs onto a thing. I'm just saying that, I don't think it's politically a film that would agree with me, but I still enjoyed it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, interesting. Even though it's anti-police.
It is anti-police, and it gets some points for that. But it's anti-police because they don't want to be controlled, man, rather than because it's bad.
Right.
Although, do I want to be controlled?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you do, man.
Well, no, man. I don't know. Well, I suppose I don't think.
Jamie is very high left on the political compass.
Shut up.
Full authoritarian left.
I'm bottom left, and you damn well know it, you prick.
Well, clearly not, Jamie. You want to be controlled. You want the man to tell you what to do.
Its criticisms of the police, I don't think, come from any analysis of systemic abuses of power. I think it's one major scene is based on an individual abuse. I think the film really is more outraged that the police exist at all in any form. So I suppose that's where my interpretation comes from.
I think I don't think. Well, maybe a little bit. I think the police are more just in it as like a symbol of.
Yeah.
I think it's anti-police in a kind of lol. The police are chasing us and they can't catch me kind of way, more than apart from obviously there is the element of he was discharged for reporting a pretty serious offence, which I do think is part of it. But I also think on a scene by scene basis, the police are not presented as like evil or bad.
No, that's fair. Yeah, that's
like lol, I'm getting away from them. They can't catch me. Is kind of.
Well, I just coming back to the very basic thing I said before. It's very much a film focused on the freedom of the individual rather than the freedom of the community.
Exactly.
It is basically about how Barry is a special little guy and he should be able to do what he wants.
Yeah.
And aren't we all special little guys who should be able to do what they want?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, who was it? I found a quote somewhere that I think, to be honest, it was Wikipedia. That like he's just passing through Earth on his way to the next realm. He can't be held down by earthly powers. He's
I see that
a being
interpretation.
Beyond that.
I acknowledge it as valid. I will not adopt it myself because I think it's stupid. But it's not stupid. But yeah, I think that's a very spiritual.
Well, there seems to be two interpretations of the ending, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Barry Newman himself said that he believed that the character saw a gap between the bulldozers and he went for the gap. Whereas someone else gave the ending that I gave, which is that death is like his ultimate
spiritual
freedom. He's
thing.
Beyond life because he's a spiritual being or whatever. I don't know which one it is, or maybe it's neither of them.
Yeah, maybe it just looked cool.
I think so. I think it's kind of just saying you can't be free forever,
Yeah, the ending felt appropriate to me, but it's very, very, very abrupt. I think that's fair to say. And I
kind of like that. I think it's easy if like the other films that I've mentioned all end in a similar way, like Convoy. Sorry to spoil it for you because I do think you should watch it, but he drives off a bridge at the end because he gets in a showdown with the police. Thelma and Louise, they drive off a cliff and it just ends. It's kind of the way that these films end.
That's true. I suppose more time would have made it clearer what his reasons were, and if you're wanting to preserve some sort of ambiguity, well, I think the abruptness is definitely part of the emotional effect. But I think whilst it is kind of shocking, I found it more anticlimactic than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
I think it sort of meant that I sort of left the film in a weird place, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Maybe it was intentional, but I think it was just I don't know. Maybe if there had been a bit more tension running into it, I don't know.
It didn't sit well with you.
It's not that it didn't sit well with me. I wasn't like uneasy or anything. It was more like my reaction was just sort of an oh, rather than a wow or anything like that. Do you get me? You get me?
I get you. Bonnie and Clyde is another surprise that's quite similar to this one, isn't it?
What is?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh yeah.
It kind of has
Bonnie
a
and Clyde comes out.
Similar road trip thing, and then they get shot right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're literally just spoiling every film.
Well, whatever. You said it yourself. They all end the fucking same.
Yeah. Exactly. I quite like it as an ending, to be honest. But I do know what you. I think it is meant to be ambiguous, and it really depends on the viewer whether they are satisfied with that.
Well, I certainly don't think it would be a better film if Barry made it out safely or anything like that. I just think the presentation of the moment could have been tweaked a little. I think it could have been stronger. Although I don't know, maybe that would.
Although actually, I watched a film last night that wasn't really similar to this one, but it was kind of similar, and it had a happy ending. And it worked actually. Yeah. But
Wild at Heart has a happy ending. I think that film works. Although apparently originally had a more negative one.
Yeah. So I think you can. I think it can be done. But
what's the more negative film you watched? Oh, sorry, less negative film you watched?
The Peanut Butter Falcon. It was
yeah, you mentioned. That's got Shia LaBeouf in it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I'm not. I would highly recommend it. I'm not going to say anything else about the plot because it's. I think it's reasonable to spoil films from 1967, but maybe films from like 2 years ago it's a
Fair.
bit of a
fair
dick move.
Right.
But I'd recommend it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's got a happier ending. That's a spoiler in itself, but anyway. I think this one could have had a happier ending, but I do think it works with the ending it has pretty well.
Yeah. So, how would you say this would stack up against a modern car chase film? Maybe that's the last sort of substantive point we should make. I think it had a lot to offer that you wouldn't really get nowadays. I thought it had I liked that the action was more grounded. I liked, even if it didn't land perfectly for me, I liked that it had a sense of soul to it. And some, even if I reached for something meaningful to say, even if I'm not 100% sure I actually made it there. I
would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has more themes, and the themes are more discreet. Because I think a lot of car chase films nowadays, it's not that they don't have any themes, but they kind of force the themes in because they just want to get to the car chase, so they just put shitty dialogue that someone's brothers died, so they're sad, and like that's the theme of the film. Whereas this one's a lot more. It kind of pans out gradually. I mean, it still has. I feel like it does still have. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks. Often, it does have the flashbacks, and a lot of his story is revealed through people just saying what happened. But it's a lot more. It's kind of, it comes out throughout the film, and you kind of get to know him as the film goes on, rather than just like one piece of dialogue that explains the whole thing, or something. I
found, just to mention, because you reminded me, I found the pacing on the film a little odd, in that I think the flashbacks are necessary mostly just to have downtime in the first half of the film, because otherwise it would just be one long car chase. But then the second half of the film is much, much more low key. So like I think it mitigates a lot of the damage that keeping the pace that high would do, having the flashbacks in the first half. But I do think it would probably be a better film if the chases were spaced out a little more.
They could have extended the flashbacks. I mean, it kind of felt like, because you see him, you see his girlfriend dying, kind of, and that's also explained later on in a newspaper for anyone that missed it. You see the motorcycle crash, you see the car crash, and then you see the police incident, but you don't see anything from Vietnam or what's the other thing? I can't remember. But there's a couple of things that the policeman just says at the end, which I feel like they could have included to kind of break up the film a bit more.
I suppose a hypothetical version of the film, which I don't think would be better, but just to discuss it, could have been genuinely just one long car chase, but with much lengthier flashbacks used as to keep the pace low when necessary.
No, I feel like I think you need the stops.
I think the stops help the film. I don't know.
Good.
I mean, I don't want to barge in on structure because it's not something I'm an expert on, or even remotely qualified to talk about. I just think the first half of the film it's a really good car chase, and it's a really long car chase, and I think I would have appreciated it more if it had come in two parts, basically, rather than one. I think that's a fair thing for me to say.
I was glad that when they introduced the kind of romantic element, I was glad that went to the flashback and explained a bit, because I kind of thought it was going to be pretty shitty, like stereotypical, I don't know, yes, a woman to come with him or something.
Yeah.
But then it's explained she reminds him of the person he saved, which was nice.
His old girlfriend was a hippie and he was a cop, so their romance was forbidden. I'd forgotten about that. But
is that true?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I don't know. But I suppose if we tie it into the wider framework of stuff we've done, I suppose a lot of films we've done for this podcast reflect the importance of being yourself. I think less in being true to yourself, less in the sort of less in quite the aggressive individualistic sense this film has. But I think there's definitely, as ever, these questions of self-identity. Otherwise, I mean, at this point, that's so broad. It's just a common element of the film, isn't it? But distrust of the police has been a very common theme in a lot of these films, which I imagine will start to change quite soon. Not that soon, like 2 years from now. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's quite different from a lot of the films we've done.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of themes, but I think it's still definitely operating through the same lens, even if it's telling a different story.
Yeah.
In a way I find quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you read the trivia stuff?
No.
Online?
No. Why don't you enlighten me and the audience?
So apparently, this was one of the first films where the cameras were mounted on the cars instead of like towed in a car in front or anything.
That's cool.
Which
I
is
like
cool.
that.
There were some nice shots. Yeah, the cinematography was very nice. We've not really talked about that apart from a brief mention.
I struggle to talk about that sort of thing. I will leave it in your capable hands.
Okay, the cinematography was really nice.
Thank you. What would we do without you?
I know. No, it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
It was. I think the cameras being mounted were really nice because otherwise it would have been really bumpy and stuff. And I kind of like that look of kind of the car being framed. You know when like it's like you're sitting in the bonnet and the car is like nicely framed around it.
Yeah.
And you can see the people through the window. They had a couple shots like that were nice. And the moving photography was very nice. You know, there wasn't a lot of. Sometimes there's a real quality drop and stuff when, especially in these older films when you do that kind of thing. But there wasn't really that. There were a couple of helicopter shots, some nice landscape shots. Apparently they picked a white car because it would stand out more against the landscape.
Yeah, it's a good car.
Yeah,
top marks are there.
Yeah, but apparently this film did a lot to popularise the Dodge Challenger.
Well, that's good.
That's good.
Right, shall we move on to ratings then? If we've exhausted our avenues of discussion.
I'm exhausted, man. I'm pooped.
Cool. I have unique insight in that I actually did buy it this week, and so I can rate my purchase and see how much I disagree with it, or regret it. I would say that this film. I'm going to say buy it, actually. I don't regret my choice at all. I realise it's quite high, but I think it is worth seeing. I think it's quite a good film. It was quite an easy watch. In a way it's good, I suppose. So yeah, I think it's a film that could be watched more than once, I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to say watch it. I'm going to go one down from you. I do think it's a good film, but I think there's a lot of very similar films as well.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't say like it stood out to me particularly against Duel or Convoy or those kind of films. So I would definitely recommend you watch it, but I wouldn't necessarily say go out and buy it because I'm sure those other films that have a similar vibe are available.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, this film isn't streaming anywhere, which is really irritating.
Yeah, well, that's it's not really informing my ranking, but it's kind of making me think a bit more about.
Ignore that.
You want to buy it? But what was I going to say? Oh, we should be. So our rating system, we should maybe say, for all the new listeners, the new 2021 listeners.
So many. Shall we? You will alternate. You go start from the lowest.
Okay, we've got a 5 rank rating system, but
someone else might use stars, but we don't.
Well, rather than just doing arbitrary stars, is what I was about to say. We actually attribute values to each of the stars in terms of what you should do with the film. So the lowest one is do not watch it. Just don't watch it. If you're in a situation where it's on, just leave. Don't watch it. Yeah. It's bad.
Our second one is watch if it's on. The idea is that if you are channel flicking one day and are bored, or if, say, a flatmate or a loved one is watching it in the room, then you should stick around. It's worth that level of investment, but no more.
Yep. Or if someone says to you, "Do you want to watch this?" You can go, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, sure. But not an enthusiastic yes.
No, not an enthusiastic one. Because if it was enthusiastic, it would be watch it. And this means if you can
stream it,
if it's,
as it were.
If it's coming up on TV, set some time aside for it. If it's on Netflix, line it up. If it's on Amazon Prime, whatever, get it lined up. Don't pay for it.
That's
know,
the
aside
key. Yes.
aside from your streaming services, don't necessarily pay for it, because maybe there's other alternatives that you can watch, or you could wait for it to come on a streaming service. But you should seek it out if you can
Yes.
get it, not for free, obviously, because you still have to pay for streaming services. But if you can get it without additional costs on top of what you're already
Yes.
doing.
And then our fourth ranking is Buy It, which is what I rated this film. The idea here is that you should spend money on it, although perhaps not too much. So this includes things like buying a DVD or a Blu-ray, or I think we'd also include renting it on Amazon.
Yeah, which is
to a
normally
degree.
like a $5 max.
Yeah, that's not very expensive. The idea is that this is worth an extra monetary cost, although it's a good film, and you should actively pay and seek it out. You should sacrifice for it. And then our final ranking, Duncan,
is buy the Criterion Collection, because of
Yes.
course every single film has a Criterion Collection.
That's true. Every single one.
Basically, you want to be spending your life savings on this film. You want to be buying the 4-disc behind the scenes Ultra Edition. You want to be buying merchandise for the film.
The idea is that this is the film that it's worth being a fan of. To a degree that you should seek to own the best version of it, not just any.
To a ridiculous degree.
Yes.
Maybe not a ridiculous degree. But
I don't know. I like Criterion Collection sets. I wish I owned one.
I don't have any. Is there alternative? Of course, we're not sponsored by the Criterion Collection.
No.
Is there alternative sort of ultra releases of films?
BFI do really high quality releases sometimes, I think.
Right.
Of art house films.
I feel like Warner Brothers has a special edition, a lot of special edition things you can buy. Buy the special edition, I guess.
Yeah.
We're not officially renaming it because it's tradition, but what it means is buy the special edition.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, that was a bunch of rambling. So now we can talk about what we've been up to.
If you want it.
Now that we've got that bloody film out of the way.
Yeah, I bet this is everyone's favourite section.
I think it is. People click on the video, they listen to 45 to an hour of us talking about film, and then what they want is
God,
to hear.
I wish these two strangers would just talk about their personal lives.
I really wish they would.
Please.
Well, we've not talked about it for probably about a
true.
month now, Jamie.
Yeah, so I guess I'll mention what's been going on. Lockdown is back in Scotland, so I've been hanging around my house. I haven't yet gone back to university accommodation, and I don't know when I will.
Yep, same.
Hopefully sometime soon, but who's to say?
Probably
in
not.
terms of media, which is what this thing basically is, me and Duncan. It's mostly just me and Duncan talking about what media we've consumed. If we're being honest.
Which is relevant to the podcast-ish.
It is relevant. Well, that's the thing. It's relevant to the podcast. I think
We're
it's
bringing
important.
it. What we need a sound effect. We need sound effects for our segments. This is not going to happen because I don't put much effort into the editing. But if we had like sound effects, we could do one where it's like a Back to the Future sound effect, or we could play just the start of the Back to the Future theme song, because we're now
like less than 5 seconds, so that it doesn't,
so it doesn't break any rules. We're then, we've talked about 1971, and we're now rushing forward 50 years to 2021 to talk about what media we're consuming right now.
All right. Okay. So I think, it's been like a month since we've done this segment. I can't remember what it is, but okay. Cool. Oh yeah. So over last week, I finished I'll start with movies. I watched Cool World a couple days ago. I thought it was a bit shit. It's a film by Ralph Bakshi, and it's sort of Roger Rabbit style, with like humans and cartoons interacting, but it's an adult one, so the cartoons are sexy.
Right.
And it's a very horny film.
Is it like Happy Time Murders?
No, it's not. It's not aggressively violent or anything like that. Or
right.
They don't really. They do talk about drugs a bit. It's not quite as try hard as Happy Time Murders. I think it is an artist's honest vision. It's just that I think that vision's shit, or at least just not very interesting. It doesn't really have a lot to offer. It doesn't really have much in the way of jokes. I didn't find the animation particularly good, and it mostly just felt a bit uncomfortable, frankly. So that's my review of Cool World. Also, one thing I did notice in that, which I found strange, is the way that the live action segments were directed, because Cool World has quite a few segments that are purely live action, and it sort of struck me how different the sort of tool set you'd use is compared to animation, just because like I think animation allows for a lot more close-ups than are really tenable in live action without it feeling awkward. Because you spend a lot of Cool World looking directly into Brad Pitt's face, and it's a nice place to be, but it does start to feel a bit weird when you're just constantly right up at people's grills. Whereas in animation, I've never really noticed that as an issue. So that's just a little thing that struck me. Other than that, I didn't find it a particularly instructive experience. And then in terms of Vidya,
should I do movies?
Yeah, if you want. If we're going to divide this.
Yeah, let's make this official, Jamie.
Cool.
So I watched The Peanut Butter Falcon, as I mentioned. I would highly recommend. It's came out in 2019. It's got Shia LaBeouf in it, and what's the actor called? Zach something. It's about a guy with Down syndrome that wants to be a wrestler, and it's really heartwarming. It's pretty. It's one of those films where I expected it to be one of those like really. Like I expected something really sad to happen, like a kind of Mice and Men style ending where someone gets shot or whatever, but it didn't really. As I said, it had definitely had ups and lows, but it had more highs.
More highs than lows.
Lows, but I would recommend it. It's a really good film.
That's good.
And then what else? I don't think I've really watched anything else recently that I can think of. I watched a film called October Sky a couple weeks ago, which came out in the 1990s, late 1990s, I think. It was good. It was about a guy that wants to be a rocket scientist, and he's from a small mining town in the US. It was really good. Had Jake Gyllenhaal in it. Yeah, I can't really remember any other films that I've watched.
I just remembered something else I watched. I watched Adaptation.
You
directed by Spike Jonze and written by Charlie Kaufman, which I thought was really good. It's quite funny. Although I think it's
interesting.
The thing is, I started like earlier. I wouldn't say earlier in the year. I wanted. Earlier last year. I think I'm thinking of ending things came out, and I was like, I want to watch that, but I should probably get familiar with Kaufman's work beforehand. So I've very slowly been watching all his films, and they are all extremely good. Although the fact that he basically has one main character is beginning to irritate me now.
Right.
Adaptation, I think, is one of the funniest ones I've seen of his,
okay.
Which is good. I liked Meryl Streep in it. I liked Nick Cage. I like Nick Cage in everything, but in this film he was good. He plays two characters. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's cheap, but I do quite like meta comedy. And do you know what Adaptation's about?
Vaguely.
I should put just for the audience to see. It's about Charlie Kaufman trying to adapt a book into a film, but he can't figure out a way to do it, and then the film gets quite cheeky with that in ways that I thought were fun. I watched it with the family, which turned out surprisingly well, although there are a lot of scenes of him masturbating in it that I wish weren't there.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's definitely the better of the two films. By far, actually. That's not even a comparison. Okay, so moving on to Vidya. I played...
That's video games for our non-educated listeners.
Mm-hmm. I played Devil May Cry 3 over... I bought it in the Christmas eShop sale. So I played it over the last couple of weeks, and it is fantastic. It is genuinely, I think, near perfect. I think probably one of the best combat systems I've used in any game. It's got a lot of variety, I think, is the key, and it's all about trying to keep variety up so that you can be rated as a stylish fighter. But like you're given a lot of tools, but it's not overwhelming because they all sort of fit together quite logically. Basically, you have 5 weapons, right? Yeah. 5 main weapons, each of which has 2 or 3 regular combos. And they almost all control fairly similarly, so it's quite easy to remember them all. Then you have 5 sub-weapons, which are guns, and they all act slightly differently as well. And then you have 4 styles, which influence, like, one style gives you a dodge, one style gives you a block, one style gives you an extra move for your main weapon, one style gives you an extra move for your sub weapon. And in the 3DS version, you can switch between the Switch version, you can switch between the styles at any time. So between the 4 styles and the 5 main weapons, and the 5 sub weapons, and the 5 main weapons all having 2 or 3 combos each, what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of options, but they all flow together quite well in a way that's really fun. So I really enjoyed myself. It's a really fucking hard game, but I think just the main combat's so fun. I think some of the bosses felt a bit cheap, and 1 or 2 enemies towards the ends of the game started. I think a lot of the way they create difficulties in this game is to like just give enemies where they've got some arbitrary gimmick, that does irritate me. But overall, I had a fantastic time.
Good. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been playing quite a lot of games. I've not played many for a long time. I've been sort of jumping in and out of little games more. So you may remember in episode whatever it was, I was getting excited for Watch Dogs Legion.
I do remember.
I got Watch Dogs Legion for Christmas. I spent 2 days playing it, solid.
Yeah.
It was really good, but I've not gone back to it yet, and it's been like a week. So I don't know. I don't know why I've not gone back to it. I kind of.
I suppose when you kind of like overload your system.
I kind of did overload my system, but I'm sure I'll play more of it. It's really fun. The like recruiting anyone off the street is a really cool system. It's you can tell it's a Ubisoft game, like a Ubisoft open world game. It's kind of got some of those tropes.
Is it Ubisoft that's making the new Indiana Jones game?
Yes, I think so. They're making a new Star Wars game.
Ah, fuck yeah.
And I think they're also making a new Indiana Jones game. But
I don't
that
really
means
like
EA no longer has exclusive Star Wars stuff, so that's good.
The thing is,
go on.
I was gonna say I don't really like the standard Ubisoft open world template. I don't really like licensed games, so I don't know why I was taking that as important news. I don't know.
I quite like the Ubisoft open world style.
I think they're very good at giving you busy work, but because I'm an incredibly impatient man, that just irritates me.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyway, Watch Dogs Legion's fun. The recruiting people and customizing all of them, and they've all got like their own little traits and stuff. It's really fun, and it's got a couple elements like Hitman, where if you recruit certain people that own certain uniforms, they can like just get in places and walk around, and it's really well designed. The way that you can, every level can be played differently. So there's like, there's restricted areas, but if you have the right person, you can literally just walk right in there and get the stuff. Or you could fly up to the roof using a cargo drone if you've got a construction worker, or you can, if you've got a really good hacker, it's a lot easier to hack your way in, or you can have people that are good at stealth and all this stuff. So it's really good. It's really.
Do you
fun.
think it could be expanded upon, or in a sequel or anything like that, or do you think it's good as it is? Do you think it's an imperfect system, or are you happy with it? Is what
I would say I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really know. I need to play it a lot more. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's I started the game to start with, and I had permadeath off because it's got a permadeath option.
Ah, boo, coward.
So after the first mission, I went back and started the game again, because I was like, do you know what? I'm going to get a lot more out of this game if I, because the people are supposed to be expendable is kind of the thing. Like, the whole point is that you recruit like 20 people and a bunch of them are going to die in missions. So once I put that on, I found it a lot more fun because I was kind of deciding which ones I didn't want to die and then not using them. So I would start missions with not my best guy just because the other one was more expendable to me because I'd spent ages customizing the first guy and stuff. So that's all really fun. So I will get back to that for sure and probably finish it. I finished one of the side storylines and it was good. It was kind of Watch Dogs. It reminded me of Watch Dogs 2 where there's like a underground cult and all that kind of stuff. And the game plays very nicely with like the hacking and computer stuff, and a lot of the missions are based around like real advancements in technology and where they would be in like 10 years time or whenever. I think the game's set in 10 years or so it's like kind of current technology but a little bit more. So there's like a lot of the stuff's done by drones and there's more driverless cars and electric cars and even more stuff is linked into computer systems and all that stuff.
Cool.
So it's really good. And then I've also I bought a bunch of games in Christmas sales that I've played like a little bit of.
Yeah.
So there's one called Art of Rally, which
Okay.
is really good. It's kind of like it's just a rally game, but it's got a really nice art style. It's kind of cartoony. The camera is like right above you and pretty far away, but it the way it plays is like a proper rally game, so it's not really very arcadey, but it's got a nice arcadey look.
Yeah.
And the you can adjust the difficulty sliders a lot, which is always good in these games. You can get it just right where you're good enough to finish the race, but it's still a challenge, and you can adjust all the sliders. Because I get frustrated with racing games a lot where they're either really easy because there's a lot of auto things on, or they're really hard because there's, it's like real life racing, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. But this one's very nice. You can slide everything along a slider to help you out. So that was good. Nice. I played Democracy 4, which is fun.
You got really into that, didn't you?
I did, but I'm not sure how much replayability it's got. I've already got a bit bored with it after like a few hours.
That's fair.
Because you just click on policies that you want to implement, and like ones that you want to take off, and adjust the sliders. So it's really interesting to play it for a bit and see how the different things influence photo groups and all that kind of stuff. But then I'm not sure how much more I will play it. I think I'll finish out the game that I'm doing now until I get voted out or assassinated. But then I probably won't start another one, or at least not until they update it or bring out some DLC or whatever. And then the other game I've been playing is PC Building Simulator, which I did get really into and still am really into.
Nice.
Because it's just really satisfying to
build a PC.
So yeah, that's my gaming thing. I realise I talked about Watch Dogs a lot, and I don't want to go into every other game loads, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. I would recommend them all.
Nice.
I'm sure there's a lot of crossover between people that listen to podcasts about films that came out 50 years ago and gaming fans.
Oh, there is. I'm almost certain. I don't know. Yeah. Our audience of about 12 people. I'm sure at least 6 of them are gamers.
Mate, we got how many views is that? One. Although it was only really the one episode that got a bunch.
There's a couple that have weird bumps in viewership into like the 30s or 40s.
I think to be honest, I think it's just the film title. Like,
yeah, it must be.
This one could get a fair few because people are going to want to, listen about it. And I don't know, I guess the last one, Love Story or El Topo, was really...
Yeah, maybe just because we had 2 films, that was enough to...
Maybe. Oh, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls has quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is like a cult hit, right? So maybe people are interested in it.
Well, this film's a cult film, Jamie.
That's true.
Hello, all the new viewers.
Please come back next week.
Please come back next week when we're not doing a film that you know.
Yeah. I forgot what film we're doing next week, so I won't warn you.
Right, shall we
call it a day?
Yeah, this is good. We're a little bit over an hour, which is
cool.
I think a good line.
In that case, signing off, babes.
Alright, bye everyone.